Give me one reason to stay here, and I'll turn right back around. Give me one reason to stay here, and I'll turn right back around. Said I don't wanna leave you lonely. You gotta make me change my mind. Baby, I got your number. Oh, and I know that you got mine. You know that I called you.
Welcome back. You are listening to another episode of 30 and 30 from Keep the Change. What an absolute tune this is. I've got bloody goosebumps listening to that. I might probably go down a rabbit hole. I've just been finding random tunes for you to start these lessons with because I know some of you will be starting your day with them. And I think it's great to start with good, energizing stuff, music or content. And I've searched for Give on Spotify, and this is what we've come up with. Give Me One Reason by Tracy Chapman. What a tune. But I'm going to explain why I think this title is very appropriate for this topic as well, because we're going to be talking about giving and giving money and the importance of giving, and maybe some of the reasons that I think I've been so keen on this when other people perhaps are like, don't do that. And we're going to get into a couple of those things. Should you look after yourself first? Should you look after other people? I don't know what the right or wrong answer is for that. But I think, well, let's get into how I think this title relates to this, is that, I think a lot of people are looking for a reason to give up and to quit or to turn it back around effectively. So, I want to give them a reason to stay here. And that might be you staying here to listen to this, to continue to learning, you continuing down your path, helping a kid continue down their path of business and entrepreneurship because you're giving to them because they are selling some feijoas on the side of the road, much like I was as a kid, and helping someone that is further behind you get up to speed with you, or someone that's down, trying to help them to get back up. Because otherwise, I think they want to, that there's a risk that they don't carry on, and we need people to carry on, because ultimately the world needs all of us to continue to keep progressing and doing good things. And there's enough people out there doing fucking stupid, dumb stuff and hurting people and doing all this bad shit. So if there's people that you can give a hand to get out of that way of life, or to go further down their own path of doing good, then why would we not encourage that? And to share a quick story with you from recently, I was reading about how a guy had passed away after a swimming of the Cook Strait, I think it was, and I just thought, fuck. I read the title and thought, geez, that's crazy. Like, man, I wouldn't even attempt that. I just thought how scary that was, and I had no emotion attached to it because I had no idea who this person was, and I just carried on with my life. And then a couple of days later, I saw on my personal Facebook a lady who I went to university with, who was an absolutely amazing person, so friendly, so bubbly, and probably even gave me answers to a couple of my things to help me get my bloody degree, if I'm honest, had posted saying that she'd lost her husband to a swim across the Cook Strait. And I'm like, holy shit, this person's just completely lost a half of their life effectively. And I thought maybe I should send some flowers. I haven't really kept in touch with her or anything, and I thought maybe I should send some flowers. I just felt for them. And then I saw maybe a couple of days later that her sister had launched one of her friends had launched a Give a Little, and her sister had posted it. And I sent the link to Jade, who works with us here at Next Advisor. I said, could you please wire this family $500 for me? And she's like, yep, sure, no problem. I said, it's just fucking absolutely tragic what's happened here. And I mean, I don't always give that amount of money to something, and but I just felt compelled with this one because I felt so sorry for them, and it made me realize that, she was probably, well, I think it said in the Give a Little that he was the breadwinner as such for the family, and they had 2 kids, and life is just so crazy how quickly it can end for people. And I thought, maybe that $500 is 2 weeks of groceries, or it's the rent for a week, or it's, a couple of mortgage repayments. Like, I don't even know what it was going to be, but I thought it's helping them carry on down their path in a time that they are going to be struggling so massively. And we can't always help everybody, but I think if we can help people, it is a good thing to be able to do. And I wanted to do something to be able to help that family, and I didn't. I haven't really spoken about it to anyone since, but it's just a story that come to mind recently. So, I'm not saying that, hey, if everyone gets in touch, I'll be able to give them $500 because I'd run out of money pretty bloody quickly, because I know there's a lot of people that need help out there. But it was a really special feeling. I actually spoke to a couple of my mates about it, and I said, "Oh, did you guys know about this?" And they didn't. They hadn't heard about it and whatnot. But I said to them, it's a really cool feeling to actually be able to wire over an amount of money like that to be able to help. And I'm not saying that it's the world's biggest amount of money, but it was it's a sizable amount of cash to wire to somebody. But to get yourself to the point where you can actually do that, and you can help some of the causes that come in front of you, when in a prior version of my life I just wouldn't have been in the position to be able to do that. So it is, I don't know, it always makes me feel good helping people. And when I was thinking about this lesson, I think I get this from my dad, who I have watched just be so generous and giving his entire life, and especially as we were kids and I was probably being nurtured, and he was always helping out at charity events, or I went to go down there. I'd meant to catch up with him just only recently, like a few months ago, where I was like, "Mate, I'm down this way because I need to get my tyres done, and I'll come and have a coffee with you while the tyres are getting done." He's like, yeah, sweet. And so the day before I ring and speaking to my stepmom, so his wife, and I was like, "Oh, so is Dad around tomorrow? Because we'll grab a coffee." He's like, "Oh, nah, he's booked himself in to go and package parcels at the local marae for food parcels for people that haven't got enough food due to COVID and blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, of course he is, Yep, sweet." I'm like, "Oh, that's all good. I'll catch up another time." But he's just always been a very giving person, and I think I've learnt through being around him that's it's a really good thing to do. And he's helped the Mad Butcher, for instance, with a number of his fundraisers and spoken at them and helped him write a book, and just all these different things where Dad's not necessarily getting rewarded for them, but has embedded him inside himself that giving is a very good thing to do. And I don't necessarily know where that may come from him, but often we'll talk about different stories of how some people will have so much and others will have so little. And I think that's just ultimately the way the world works and the way the systems that we live in work. But if you've got the ability to help other people, then I think it's a great thing to be able to do. So I'm very grateful for my my dad and some of the things that I've learnt from him and other people in my life who seem to be tied to giving and do a lot of it. And I guess I didn't mention on that house sitting story that when I spoke with the Mad Butcher, I actually asked him, I was like, "Mate, how much money do you have?" And he told me, and I thought, okay, I thought it would be a lot more. And I didn't say that, but I was just like, "Oh, okay, yeah." And I just, in my head, for some reason, I thought that he would be worth a lot more money. And he goes, "Mate, I'd have a fucking lot, way more fucking money, but I've given fucking so much of it away." And I thought, well, there you go. And that's so true. There's so many stories of the Mad Butcher giving countless dollars to different causes and flying people up to Auckland after the Christchurch earthquakes and supporting the Warriors and just different things where he's then using money the way that he wants to use it. And I guess once you start to have money, you decide what you're going to do with it. And like I said, to be able to give $500 to a family that's struggling, it was an awesome feeling for me. But I know it's not exactly like life-changing for them, but it's going to help in some way. But again, I'm like reminding myself that I want to continue to be the person that I'm becoming, and that I still want to have these things in me that no matter what levels of income I'm making, I'm going to remain that same type of person, because I think it's so easy to be like, "Oh, rich people are assholes and they only fucking care about themselves." And I read this post, this comment on one of the Keep the Change posts, someone saying exactly that, and I just said, I'm so sorry that that's your experience and that's the world you've lived in, because I just said that's not the world that I live in, especially not anymore. And I've met so many people that are so giving with cash and heard some stories that just, you wouldn't even know that these people have given these levels of money or brought these things for different people and strangers. And it's awesome to see what humans will do for other humans, especially if it's something that they can really relate to. And, it's something that I think I'm going to continue to do throughout the rest of my life, like where I can. And I like to help people. And again, here I am on a Saturday recording these so that people can learn from them when, I hope people are being educated rather than being entertained, and can take some of these lessons through and put them into their own daily lives. And I did a money mail about giving $100 to a complete stranger, or $10 or something that you can afford, just to see what that does for you, because I think giving is so important to us. And coming back to sort of like biblical times and terms, a lot of people will give 10% of their wage. I know there'll be a lot of people who are non-Christian who think that that's just a waste of money and they're being scammed and all these different things. But, who cares? That's not for you to decide. That's for the person that's giving that money to decide. There'll probably be people along the spectrum that maybe are being taken advantage of, but there'll be people that are very willing to give money to organisations like Christians Against Poverty and things like that. And, that's up to them. Like, who are you to judge the fact that they want to do that? It's very easy to just take the piss out of the people that give like that to churches or things because you can't relate to it and you think, fucking suckers. But, they're learning to live off a lower level of income. It's interesting that a lot of those people can give more than you can even save. I mean, hopefully that doesn't relate to you completely, but amazing that they can learn to give a lot more than Kiwis can learn to save, which is very interesting, but you don't probably hear too many people calling that out. However, it's just a part of society, right? Giving back. And I think it's in us that we want to do that in different ways. And that's where I think if you aspire to earn more and you're a good person, then you'll find ways to do that as you start to earn more as well, because it'll become possible for you. And I once watched a webinar about people who choose to earn a lower income, and the webinar was basically like, you're selfish. And I thought, wow, I'd never heard that before. And it's like basically someone who's become rich as such saying that if you choose to stay poor or earn a low income, really you're being selfish. And I thought, man, you can't say that. Everyone that's poor thinks that rich people are selfish. This is just creating even more division. But what they were saying is that if you can earn more and you could be chasing your potential but you decide not to, you're basically only thinking about yourself. And the more I sort of thought about it, I thought, oh, interesting. See, because then you're foregoing the opportunity to be able to give to other people who might be in need, to things you care about, to communities, to churches, to whatever your thing is. You're not going to have the option to do that because you're not actually getting yourself in the position to be able to do it. And I thought, wow, that's that's something that I've never heard anyone talk about before, or that's very polarizing. So I don't think too often about that, but it's something that I've written down to talk about on this lesson, because it was so far from some of the things that I'd been taught or learnt and sort of heard and picked up, that rich people are arseholes and they're the selfish ones. And all of a sudden I'm hearing a rich person being like, fuck, what's up with people that decide to keep themselves poor or don't want to try hard or don't want to earn more? They're just selfish and they're only thinking about themselves. I thought, holy shit. Okay. This is new. But you might like that, you might hate that. Who knows? But that's just a piece of information, education that I picked up and thought, wow, that's amazing how people can see the world so differently and have different concepts of who's allegedly selfish and that sort of thing. But I think the important thing to remember is that money isn't bad. Bad people are bad, and money just magnifies the types of people that we are, right? So if you're a bad person, you're probably going to be bad with and do bad things with the money. If you're an arsehole and you get rich, you're going to be a rich arsehole. Money, as we said a couple of pods ago, it holds no value. We decide what value we give it, and we decide what we do with it and to what means we're going to use it for. Now, one of the things that I think is important about giving is that it's a form of encouragement. Now, I gave $1,000 last year to a guy who was, he's on his entrepreneurship journey, and he's sort of, he's got a kid and he's got a number of things going on, and I just thought, wow, good on you, man. Like that's the version of Luke that I was too scared to be. And this dude doesn't have a job. He's just hustling away in his business, and I don't really even know how he's going, but I just knew that he would need support, and I could tell from the type of business that he's running, all of his mates probably think he's awesome and just absolutely crushing it in all these things. And I thought, well, that's probably not the case. And I messaged him once and just said, hey, mate, here's $1,000 effectively. And I just said, use it towards your business. And I don't really want anything in return, but just keep doing what you're doing. And for me, I was almost like, I could see that if maybe someone was like that for me earlier on, maybe I would have gone down my path a bit further, or I would have realized I was on the right path, or I realized that people were there to support you. So almost it's like me paying it forward a little bit, but paying it backwards at the same time to the person that potentially I wanted to become, but I was just too scared to, and I didn't have the right support around me. And hopefully that person used that money wisely, but it comes back around where I was sitting with a business owner and they said, I want to support Keep the Change. And could you send me an invoice? We don't really want anything in return. Of course, your support of our business would be amazing, but we just think what you're doing is great, so we'd like to contribute to bring some of your costs down for the things that you're paying for personally, to keep the change going, and fire us an invoice. And those things happen. So it's amazing what people are willing to contribute towards. And again, money isn't bad. It's just that people can do bad things with it. So, we don't want to be thinking about how people are rich assholes and all that stuff, because nothing really good comes of that. And we're going to end up just having envy or hating people for the sake of it. And what's the point of that? Now, one of the other things that I want to tell you about is when we started School Rebates, we basically did a high sponsorship, expensive sponsorship, 5 figures, over 5, well, it was 5 figures. And we thought, okay, this is a great way to get in front of a whole heap of people, and this is going to help us blow School Rebates up. And it wasn't realistically, but that's 5 figures that is gone. And someone was asking as part of the Instagram questions, what's some of your biggest mistakes when it's come to money, and or some of your biggest losses in terms of investments. Now, this is effectively like a $10,000 investment into our business that went absolutely south because we didn't really get anything from it. And often with sponsorship, you don't get much in return, and you're just hoping that the other people are going to be able to continue further down their path, and it's an encouragement payment effectively, and they are going to be able to do good with that money. And it was probably a lesson for me early on that I was expecting too much in return for the sponsorship, and that probably wasn't what we needed to be spending money on at that time. We probably needed to be marketing or continuing doing some of the things we were already doing, rather than diving into the sponsorship area, which didn't really necessarily lead to anything. But you never know until you try these things. So I always think, try things if you can, and but be wary like how big of an investment or gift those things are going to be. Now, I guess that brings us to the point of when do you give and when do you not give, and I think that's something for all of us to decide. Like I'd always want to give to people that were sitting in the street busking, or not busking, just sitting there waving a cup, and I'd want to help them, and sometimes I'd buy them food and things and give them that rather than giving them money, because you just don't know what they're going to do with that money. But that's just me being judgmental and assuming that they're going to do something silly with the money. But as I've progressed further in my journey, I've sort of decreased the amount of giving money to just absolute strangers, and trying to give money or time and education to people who really want it or want to better themselves. Just like this, for instance, I could be volunteering today somewhere, putting some food parcels together, for instance. But not to say that I wouldn't do that. I have done that, and I actually enjoy doing that. But what's probably a better use of my time? Me educating people and trying to give back some of the lessons that I've been through and help with financial literacy and helping clients and things like that. It's probably actually a better way for me to give my time than to be doing something where anybody could do that and put some food parcels together and things like that. So my giving lens has kind of changed as I've gone, and I sort of now look for, if I've only got so much time, where can I give my maximum value? And I've been asked to be involved in different things, or take on different clients, or sit on different boards and things, and I've really got to test myself and go, is this a good use of my time, and are things actually going to progress here, or would I be better to do some of these things myself and not sit on these boards or sit around these committee type settings or take on clients that aren't necessarily needing our help. They're already too far advanced, or they're not going to take any of the action that we suggest they should be taking. So I'm very careful and selective with where I now focus my time and energy, and who I will give that to and whatnot, and whether they'll just continue to take the lessons but do nothing about them. Eventually I run out of time and patience, and it's like, well, I've done all I can. It's on you now to do something about this. And going back to the last podcast, was about doing some doing rather than the thinking. But giving, I think, is very good for us, and one of the things that I think we can all do is just fucking smile at more people, and just smile at strangers. So often I go to the gym or go for a run, or I don't really go for a run too often anymore. Someone would say that's bullshit. But when I first moved to Auckland, I just smile at everyone, because what you do in a region, you see the same people all the time, so you're just naturally friendly to them because you're familiar. But in Auckland, I got up here and I'm like, far out, everyone's so angry and just so grumpy, and like you smile at them, they're like, what the fuck are you looking at? You know, they've got that look on their face, and it's just bizarre. But I just try and give out like positive energy, so trying to just talk to absolute strangers, and it's probably something I've learnt from my dad, because I watched him doing that and he was very comfortable with it, and I just assume that that's what you do. And I will, I will give my time where it's needed. I was talking to a young lad the other day who one of his friends had just committed suicide, and I could tell he just needed, I was a complete stranger to him, but he just needed someone to talk to for a bit. And so for me, in that moment, that was the best thing that I can give, was just an ear and to listen and to ask him how he was feeling about that, and how did it make him feel, and how did he think it made the family feel, and what was coming up. Was he going to the funeral, and what could happen with some of his mates who might overindulge in booze and then start talking about how, they might be struggling a bit, and to remember to get back in touch with those blokes down the track, and maybe go back and visit the family if you're ever in the area, because they'll remember their son through you, and just whatever advice that I had. But I had no intention of having that conversation that day. I had no intention of staying there and talking to that guy. I was literally about to leave the environment, and I was like, well, mate, you got to dig in here and help. This person has obviously told you this for a reason, and this is the best form of help you can give someone right now. So I think, this topic is about giving money as such, but it's just about giving in general. And I think maybe I'll just name it giving, because for me, it's something that I get so much out of. And I don't know if you do, or if you're not a giver, or you've tried that and you're like, fuck that. I actually had a client telling me yesterday, and they're a massive giver, and they've organised so many community different things, and they've just been so upset by the way that society's becoming so divided over COVID and the immunisation and stuff like that. And she's just, like, why did I bother all this time when this is how you get treated on the other side of it? Or you try and do good things for other people and they get thrown back in your face. And there's that saying, like, no good deed goes unpunished. And I'm sure we can all relate to that. And you sort of think, fuck, why did I do this? But I guess one thing I've learnt to do over time too is give without expectation, and really practice that. I mean, sometimes it can be hard because you sort of do think, okay, well, if I give here, I had that expectation with that sponsorship. I thought, well, we're giving 5 figures here. Something's good's going to come of this. Well, it didn't. And as hard as we pushed for something good to come of it, like nothing too big came of it, but it was a big lesson, and I had to pay for that lesson. So I did effectively get something in return. But, if you can decrease your expectation from when you give, then I think it's a really good place to get to. So, think about what you're wanting on the other side of your giving. And are you giving because you genuinely want to, or are you expecting something in return? There you go. That has been a brilliant pod, I think, around giving. And I think just practice it and find ways to continue to do it. I think don't stretch yourself to a point where you can't give any further and you're not looking after yourself and your family and your loved ones and people around you. I think there's an important piece there to ensure that you do keep yourself well and look after yourself, so that you can continue to give into the future and you don't completely exhaust yourself of your energy and your resources. So, look after those around you, but make sure you are looking after yourself too, because people will need you to be able to be who you are and continue to do that into the future. There we go. That has been day number 20, the 20th of March. Have a brilliant day. I'll talk to you tomorrow.